So we're working, my group are working with tuberculosis vaccine research, including mechanisms of protective immunity. So first of all, just to set the scene, to say that tuberculosis is a huge global health problem and causes actually 1.5 million deaths every year. So we're in need of good vaccines, and that's what we focus on. So the vaccines we have today are, with no offense, easy to make, or have been easy to make, in the sense that you inject an inactivated form of the pathogen, and then it works by generating an antibody response. So a lot of the diseases, infectious diseases we have left, are harder to target, including HIV, malaria, and TB is also one of them. And our driving hypothesis is that the vaccine would need to induce something that the pathogen or the bacteria is not able to do. And in our case, we're focusing on a special type of immune cells called Th17 cells that the pathogen itself is not able to induce. We can do it by the vaccine. So we're very interested in understanding what these immune cells are doing. And we've shown, along with other scientists, that they can actually orchestrate the whole immune system and accelerate the recruitment of immune cells to the site of infection, which in this case is in the lung. And it's a two-component vaccine consisting of an antigen, which is a protein antigen, and an adjuvant. So the antigen is what we call a fusion protein. So in order to make this vaccine cheap, which is supposed to be used in areas of the world that do not have good access to healthcare, so we've manufactured the vaccine in one stretch, which means you can do only one production, but you still have 8 different antigens from the bacteria in there. So that's the fusion protein that's specific for the pathogen. And then we formulate this very pure protein together with an adjuvant. In this case, it's a liposomal adjuvant. It's like a nanoparticle, you can say, that will incorporate the protein into it. And then this will stimulate the immune response. So we've incorporated a carrier liposome with some very potent immunostimulators that will give us this special kind of immune response, which includes these what we call Th17 cells. And none of the other vaccine candidates that are in the pipeline at the moment is able of inducing these T cells. So that's how our vaccine is different from the existing candidates in the pipeline. So as I mentioned, TB is a huge global health issue. And before COVID, it was the most deadly infectious diseases on the planet. So it kills, as I said, 1.5 million people every year. And you see 10 million cases every year of active tuberculosis. So it's a huge problem. And it's mainly in it's associated with prosperity, or the opposite of. So you would see huge problems in sub-Saharan Africa, in countries like India, China, and actually also the rest of Southeast Asia. You would see problems with TB. There's also a huge issue of development of antimicrobial resistance. You would see multi-drug resistant TB, which is why a vaccine would have a huge impact on global health. So that's also why Western countries like in Europe and Northern America should show interest in vaccine development, because we're seeing a spread of these very hard to treat multi-drug resistant TB strains. So a vaccine would have huge impact in both third world countries as well as Western countries. And unlike COVID, you would see that this disease is actually targeting both infants. We would see an over rate of mortality in infants due to TB, but also young teenagers and adults. So unlike COVID, that's mainly targeting the elderly or killing the elderly, TB would have a broad impact on people. And that's why it's also having such a huge economic impact on these countries. Yeah, so actually I forgot to mention this, but it seems like COVID and the hard lockdowns that you faced during COVID has actually caused an increase in the TB problem. So for the first year in 10 years, we've seen an increase in TB infectious rates, but also deaths. So that's kind of the hardcore impact of COVID on the disease that we're working with. But certainly COVID could also have some kind of positive impact, because it seems like both society, but also my family and friends, so in general, there's an increased interest in infectious diseases. So my hope is that we would, see an increased amount of funding to TB, which has traditionally been grossly underfunded. That the experience with COVID as an infectious diseases and the awareness of infectious diseases would actually give a boost to vaccine development and research in general against these kinds of infectious diseases. So that's my hope. And I hope we can sort of ride on this wave of interest that we're seeing at the moment. It seems like in general, people, including myself, but everybody, the way we're designed evolutionary, our minds are designed to link coincidence as causality. And in this case, that's obviously causing a lot of misconceptions. So an example is that we have in Denmark just 50,000 deaths over a year. That's every year we see that. And when you start mass vaccinating this population like we did during COVID, everybody will get 2 or 3 shots of vaccines over a year. Just by pure statistical coincidence, a lot of deaths would happen right after giving a COVID vaccination. And if you imagine how many other health issues that arise during a normal year, you would have a lot of these occurring right after vaccination. So this is causing people to think that the vaccine is causing it.